Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. Thanks for tuning in with us today. It's great to have you back. We really appreciate you guys coming and checking out the channel. Today we're looking at doing something a little bit different. Something that not a lot of people think about when we're setting up our networks at home. Eventually, you may come across a bottleneck somewhere along the line of hosting your server from home, especially if you're trying to get access to it remotely, or if you're just trying to improve the bandwidth or the flexibility of your network at home. And a lot of people overlook this, or they just don't have the money at the time, or maybe it's not the first priority. As your family may grow, your home may grow, or the demands on your home network may grow, it might trigger the decision to start looking into your networking and see whether there's something you can do a little bit better. So today we're going to be covering looking at your network and how to help improve it with solutions like those offered by Ubiquiti and the UniFi line of product. In particular, we're going to be covering the Dream Machine Pro, as well as a switch and AP, and the overall pros and cons, and the other benefits of having a UniFi setup at home. I would like to make very clear that this video is not sponsored by Ubiquiti. Maybe one day they want to send me some free stuff. I'm open to the suggestion, of course, but all this stuff I purchased myself, and there's no influence on my decision. It's purely my own opinions and those of people I've spoken to in our Discord community as well as online. So with that all said, let's get stuck in and we'll start discussing everything we need to know about our new home network setup. Alright guys, welcome back. So it's been a very busy year, especially here at IBRACORP. In terms of my own home setup, things I've had to look in retrospect and have a think about things that need to be changed or improved. My family's about to grow. I'm about to have 2 twin boys later this year. I'm starting to think a little bit ahead of things that we might need and things we do need. And a few years ago, I had a look and I've seen the name Ubiquiti, I've seen the name UniFi, I've seen controllers, and I've seen all this stuff pop in and pop out of my view, whether it's with Unraid or just looking around on the web. And I'll be completely honest, I kind of just glanced over it, never really looked into their products. There was a little bit of a part of me that felt like, is this some sort of Apple situation where, you know, you have to buy all their products and, you know, they look nice, but under the hood, are they even competitive with their counterparts? And I'm going to be honest with you guys straight up right now, there are other products that can do what UniFi does on a standalone level. Now, what does that mean? Okay, you can find switches. I've been in the IT industry for about 10 years now, and it's a switch. There's nothing, it's not gonna change your life, all right? It's not gonna help you find a new girlfriend. Having a decent switch can mean the difference between dealing with complete network issues down the track or having more control or not enough control of your network devices as they're being switched through your network. What we're trying to get away with and what we're trying to move towards is, I noticed in my own home, I had separated and segregated products that addressed specific needs. Now, I wonder if this is the same for you. You guys can tell me down in the comments below. For an example, in my setup, we had a Netgear Nighthawk router, and let me tell you, it is a fantastic router. It lasted me so long, several years, no issues. About 6 months ago, it started to really die off. I noticed its CPU usage was just through the roof, and I had no idea why. So what I did then was I flashed it with DDWRT so that it had open source firmware running on it, and what do you know, it actually ran perfectly after that. So I saved money by not having to buy a new one, and it worked perfectly fine, and it still works perfectly fine up until now. So then the question is, why would I need to change that? Well, let me give you a couple of examples. So what you're looking at here is a very, very rough look at how the previous network looked for me. And it stayed like this for years. And I had no problem running Plex or running my Unraid server or running phones and computers and laptops. All those things worked fine. But we want to improve that. Now, when I decided to upgrade our network at home, I had a list of requirements that I wanted to meet, as well as those of my wife. Now, you might be in the same situation, your husband, your wife, whatever, might have certain things that they like to use. Us as home labbers or self-administrators or whatever you want to title it, some of it, apparently the new term now is prosumers, which is a, professional consumer. We start thinking of things that we want to implement, and we think about the latest, greatest, the coolest, the stuff that gives us more control. How practical is it? Now, if I've got a router here and it's capable of dealing with all the family's network devices, it's giving us internet, it's handling the bandwidth from our server for Plex or whatever else you're hosting. You might have some CCTV cameras, you might have a baby monitor, and this little router here is handling it perfectly fine. You know, you might live in a 2-bedroom house or 1-bedroom apartment, whatever it is. Now, for me personally, I got my first hands-on look through my work. I got to see a UniFi setup, get my hands on it, and actually have a look at how it operates, and I was really impressed. Now I'll show you why. So this was our old setup. We had a look at that. No worries. But the list of requirements I had that I felt needed to be checked off are the following. The requirements are missus. So the missus needs to be happy. Now, your partner, your family, your kids, whatever, they might have certain things that they rely on. They might need decent internet speed so they can do their homework, or streaming Netflix, or streaming Plex, or whatever the case might be. Everyone's house is different. Everyone's needs are different, which is, again, I want to reiterate, I'm not here to tell you that you need to get this, but I'm going to show you why you should at least consider getting this set up. The next requirement has to be family oriented. So I need to be able to address family needs. I want it to be scalable. I want it to be reliable, future-proofed, security, and access. So those are the list of my requirements when I was trying to address every need. Now, if I'm not addressing the one of the misses, well, let me tell you, the rest of them aren't going to get done. So let's consider for a sec that the first requirement, the missus, she wants to be able to have a baby monitor in the baby's room, have reliable internet connection, which ticks off the reliable as well, and basically just have no issues. Now, that sounds nice and easy, and we could easily get away with doing something like that with our old network. It was working perfectly fine. It could have addressed that. What it doesn't address is it scalable? Okay, if we go back to the old example, I have one access point, which is the router. Now, if we can move to a bigger house, we're going to need another access point, aren't we? So what a lot of people end up doing is buying one of these sort of wireless mesh access points, and I actually have one as well for this network, so that it can then broadcast our Wi-Fi signal even further. That's great. We've got a wireless mesh network. It can boost our scale speed up. No worries. What the problem is that we're now purchasing another product. We're purchasing a completely separate product. Then we've got that. We've got our Netgear router. We've got a Ubiquiti Labs AmpliFi. We also have our cable modem, which we get from the ISP, which we don't even have a choice in anyway. So what does that mean? Okay, well, if I just bought this AmpliFi thing, it's meant and designed to work with other AmpliFi products. I don't want to go buy all this AmpliFi stuff. I have a perfectly good router. All right, so here you can see the issue is that we're starting to purchase individual products. You know, then we want a baby monitor. You know, then you'd have to go buy a baby monitor. Buy a baby monitor that costs $300 and something Australian. And that just sits there doing one purpose, which is monitoring a baby. What the UniFi setup allows us to do, because it is technically an enterprise, and I say that in quotation marks, an enterprise solution, it's designed to be scalable. Now, if I want to expand my home, instead of buying a $300 router with 7 antennas sticking out of it, you know, pure physics says that you might have 6 antennas and it might increase the throughput banded together, but the overall distance that's going to cover is going to be the same. So eventually, if your house is big enough, your walls are thick enough, whatever material it's built out of, you're going to need another access point. So instead of investing in a $300 router and then another $200 Wi-Fi extender, we can just buy $100 access points, or, you know, the price point is about 150 Australian to 200, depending which access point you're getting. There's some more expensive ones as well. But guys, if you are running a home network, be reasonable. You don't need a $300 router. However, because it's scalable, we're saving money in the long term. If we're looking ahead in time, I only bought one access point. Okay, I've done my tests around the house. I can see that, to be honest, I need another access point. So for my house in particular, I need at least 2. And I'm in a 2-bedroom home here. It's not a very big home, but I would need at least 2 to be able to cover everywhere sufficiently without any sort of dropouts, and then I would be fine. So if they're about $110 each, we're talking about $220 to cover the house. Now, if something breaks, you're also segregating the network out. So if this access point breaks, I just have to replace the access point. I don't have to replace the entire router, and the internet is not going to be affected. So that leads us to the Dream Machine. The Dream Machine offers multiple different products from the UniFi range into one solution. Now, if I go to their website, so here we are on the website for the Dream Machine Pro. There is also the Dream Machine, which is a small, you know, more home-oriented device. But I'm going to tell you why this one is probably the better choice. Previously, you would have to purchase separate products from Ubiquiti and have them all connected together so that you could get all the benefits that the Dream Machine offers. So I did some research and I noticed the price points of each individual product, and the total price is pretty expensive. You could run into easy $1,000 Australian, and you know, that gives you the same functionality as something like this. And you might think, oh, well, for home use, I don't need a pro device. But for the price point that you're getting this at, which is the big seller, a lot of prosumers are purchasing this product. Now, here in Australia, I've managed to pick this up for about $530. Some places had it for about $650. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So what you're getting out of this one box you're getting a security gateway. So previously you had to purchase a USG security gateway device from Ubiquiti to address that particular thing. It has a managed switch. Let me be clear, it is not POE. So this switch is not POE. So if you're planning to run a access point out of one of these ports, that's not going to happen, okay? Because it's not POE, unless of course you run a POE injector on the WAP, which they come with one as well. But it's just important to note for some people that these aren't POE. All right, but anyway, they're gigabit ports. That's pretty good. And they're built into the device. So if you don't want to purchase a separate switch, you don't have to. If we go to UniFi network, then you've got all the network stuff, which you will find on the UniFi controller. Now, if anybody has run the UniFi controller, it's got a plethora of features. We're going to go through all these guys as well on the actual OS. I've got it ready to go. I just wanted to walk you through this part real quick. So then we've got the UniFi Protect. So you can run security system through as well, buying their cameras, and with an inbuilt hard drive bay. Then you have some other stuff that they like to advertise, which is their advanced redundancy. So pretty much there's an app, the UniFi app, and I pretty much just installed that. It picks up the device via Bluetooth, recognizes that it needs setting up, and then it walks you through the setup process. Now the process was very, very smooth. I have to give them absolute credit there. It was easy, it was quick, and it was efficient. So here we are on the interface. Now, if you just picked up one of these bad boys, yours might look a little bit different, and I'll show you why. We'll head over to settings, we'll go to user interface, and by default, the new user interface is what's actually applied. So if we click apply, this is more than likely what your UI is going to be looking like. Click up here in the top left, and this is everything that the controller runs. So the first thing you should do once you've got this started is head over to your system settings. It gives you a whole bunch of details on your device. It's got your owner name, which I've blanked out, all sort of firmware updates, dates, times, etc, etc. Before you sit there and start fiddling with settings, update your firmware. Always update the firmware, because there has been so many stories of people spending absolute hours setting this up. They go to hook it up to the internet, it updates the firmware, breaks everything that they've set up. So we scroll down a little further, we've got our CPU, we've got the temperatures, we've got memory being used, and we come down, we've got internal storage and disk storage. So disk storage, it does not come with a hard disk. You can just put one in yourself, a 3.5 inch. I've got a 1 terabyte in there. I don't have any cameras set up yet, so it's not being used, but it's there when I need it. So head over to updates, and then you can see you've got all the options here to update. Now I've picked release candidate because I don't mind changing a couple of things here and there and testing out new stuff, but you might want to just swap to beta or the official. If you would like stuff to auto update, here's your options here, so you can just tick that. And same for anything that works underneath the actual Dream Machine, so all the applications, and then you can set a time for that to update. You've got your location and time, pretty straightforward. Head into advanced and you've got your device name. So this is what you can refer to for your host name. So IBRACORP is our one here. Then we've got a whole bunch of other options if you want to reset. An important one is your backup config. So you can back up stuff here and back it up to your cloud account. Now, another big tip, because you have to tie this to your Ubiquiti account, make sure that you set up two-factor authentication on your Ubiquiti account so that you have absolute security. Okay, I can't stress that enough. If anybody gets into your account, they're going to get into your server, they're going to get into your networking switch, they'll get into everything. So very important that you secure that. All right, once you've gone through these sort of stuff, these settings, you're happy with all that, those are the basics of the actual Dream Machine done. And you don't really tend to go in here very often. Every other setting and every other option is managed through the applications, as they call them. So you've got network and protect for me at the moment. If you're using their door lock, doorbells, you've got it under access. If you're going to use their VoIP phones, you've got it under talk. CCTV under protect. So probably the most important one is going to be network. So let's go to network, and here's your dashboard. So here's your main dashboard, gives you a quick view on what's happening right now across the network. See our uplinks and our downlinks. Then you can see other statistics of all the devices, and it's pretty cool. Once you've had a brief look, one of my favorite features is the topology. So let's go to topology, and you can see it just quickly springs up a map for us, and we can see what's connected to where. You can also set up a floor plan if that's something you want to do. I didn't really bother because I don't need it yet, but that might be something I'll do in a later point in time. If we go into UniFi devices, here's all the devices that we have. So when I first set this up and I plugged the access point into the switch, pretty much came up with an option here to say adopt. And now if you click on each one, you start getting more options. Now I kind of wish this was like a full screen sort of situation. I'm not sure if that will change in future. But so far it just opens up like a little tab here with all the info, and you can configure it to any way you want. So if we go to the device, then we can configure things like enable the LED. If you've got your network, if you want DHCP or static, you can manage all sorts of other stuff. If you want to locate it, restart it, any custom configs, or if you just want to kick it off the network as well, you can do that too. So any other UniFi devices, they'll show up in this list and you can configure them from here. Clients, you can see a whole bunch of clients here. I've got a filter set at the moment, I think, to show me wireless clients only, but you can set it to pretty much anything else and what kind of channel they're on. Go down to statistics, you get a whole bunch of stats on all the data that's coming in and out of your network, where it's going, where it's being chewed up. Maybe you have children, you want to make sure going into anything they shouldn't be. So that just helps you monitor everything that's going on there as well, which is great. If you go into insights, the Wi-Fi built-in Wi-Fi scanner is actually pretty powerful. And you can see all the local networks that are around my WAP. So here you've got Wi-Fi Man, and if you've got the app on your phone and you're on the same network, you can then run a test and it records and logs all the tests that you do. So you can actually walk to the far end of your house using the Wi-Fi Man app, run a test, and it will then send the data back to your controller and it'll say, yeah, look, my last test was 72%. I know it's pretty weak down that side of the house. It also gives you all sorts of other data, which is really cool. The next one is the threat management. So this is the built-in security gateway that we spoke about. And as you can see, it's pretty nifty. The one thing that shocked me the minute that I started using this, within about an hour I had about 4 attempts at admin privileges being lifted. I don't know personally whether this is reporting stuff accurately or not, but look, so far I'm assuming that it's doing its job and it's doing a good job at it. It's definitely detecting stuff that I wasn't aware of. So I've got traffic log and endpoint scans. Now for security, I'm not going to go ahead and click on those. The endpoint scans will scan anything on your network and tell you what ports are open. You also have the option to launch a honeypot and have it built into the controller. So if somebody is trying to get into your network, the honeypot can either stop them or slow them down by making them think that they've actually gotten into something they haven't. Once they're in there, they're pretty much trapped and you can get all their information back. So those are the various apps inside of the network app. The one thing about this user interface that I think sort of gives it a con is that it makes things look almost too easy, but that's not necessarily a big problem. If you're a home user and you just wanted that extra little bit of control over stuff, this UI is actually perfect. And I think that's what it's targeted at. If you're an advanced user though, you might prefer the classic UI, and I'm not sure whether that's going to hang around or what the go is there. But if I go to system settings here, under settings, we flick off the UI and we click deactivate, and looking at the same screens, you can see there's a lot more options and a lot more information. Now I can see as a new user, this might seem like pretty full on, but as someone that wants extra control, it just gives you more data, more information to work with. So under here, you can create different HUDs, you can edit the widgets, and you can add as many as you like to make it match what you want to see. So I personally think Ubiquiti, you should make this an option on the new UI to be able to customize this. I couldn't seem to find it because I think it's pretty nifty. And you can see here straight away at a glance, how much port utilization do we have? And as you scroll through, you'll start seeing all that same stuff that we saw before, a little bit different. You see we've got activity monitors there and things like that inside, all pretty cool. If you were to go through every single setting here, you could spend a few days refining this, and it might be a little bit too much for you, but I'll give you a couple of the top ones that I think you should definitely change as soon as you get this set up. The first thing I do, I'll switch back to the original UI just because you're going to be more familiar with it when you first start it up. We'll go to settings, and under Wi-Fi, go ahead and make your Wi-Fi networks. This is how simple it is. Click add new Wi-Fi, give it a name, give it a password, and pretty much save, and that's it. But if you want to go more advanced, drop down the advanced tab. You can select what kind of channel it is, which APs you want it to broadcast from. So maybe you only want one particular AP doing that network, you can do that. You've got all these other settings here too: isolation, legacy support, fast roaming, for example. Any bandwidth profiles you've configured, then you go through your security settings, etc, etc. There's plenty of options there, and you can go through all of them and click apply. Once you've done that, you've got your Wi-Fi network. So the next thing that I would also recommend, if you know you have a lot of guests, the cool thing about having a product that's also targeted at businesses is that you get features that you don't get on a normal router. So for example, every router these days has a guest network that you can set up, but how many of them have a portal that you can actually set up so that you can capture people into there? So for example, I've set up this portal here. If I just go to edit, or if you wanted to go to add new, I've given it a name and I've given it an authentication type. You can see how many options we've got. You can use Facebook, vouchers, payment, radius, WeChat, or a password. And you can use a combination of them. So if you wanted multiple options, you can have either password or vouchers, for example. Now, if you're thinking about vouchers, that's more like a hotel thing, right? You might check into a hotel, they might give you a little voucher, it's got a code on it. Once you connect to the guest network, it takes you to a portal and it'll say, what's your voucher number? You punch it in and then you've got internet for however long. So that takes us to the next thing. We've got the password here and we've got the vouchers here. And you want to say, well, what do the vouchers offer? So if I go add new voucher, you just give it a name, how many of them, whether it's a one-time or multi-use, and when it expires. You can then set bandwidth and all that sort of stuff as well. Then you get down to the portal. You say, yeah, I want my portal, I want a logo there, I want a background. You can change all the colors, the schemes. You want a terms of service, and you can customize that, and a little bit of a welcome text. That's pretty nifty. I tried it on my phone and it worked. It was pretty cool. Took me straight to the thing as soon as I connected to the guest network, and then I had to agree to the terms of service. Is it a bit overkill for home? Definitely. It definitely is, but who cares, yeah? It's pretty cool. You get your friends over, you make them go through all these hoops to get to your internet just for the thrills. I think that's pretty worth it. So then we go under advanced, and you've got other settings that you can then configure as well. Same with other Wi-Fi, and you can configure that the way you want. So the other section that this actually connects you to is the hotspot manager. So the link is here. If I just click that, this is our hotspot manager screen. So you can see how many guests are connected, how long they're valid until. You can then kick them off or extend their sessions. If you want to be a real pain in the butt, you can charge your friends for internet. You know, how many freeloading friends do you have coming over using your internet? Charge them. I'm not sure they'll be your friends after it, but look, if times are getting tough, you got to do what you got to do. So then we can head to vouchers, and we can see valid vouchers for internet as well. So that's Wi-Fi. Then we go to networks. Now by default, this will already be there, guys, because it's going to be using the default network. But this is where you would configure it. You can also add networks as well, and you can set up multiple different networks and segregate them. So if you wanted VLANs, anything like that, you can do it very easily and just launch them out and configure them the way you want. You can also have content filtering on the network level. So I might have a network just for my kids, for example, and if they want to connect, they go through that network, and it's already got content filtering right at the top. You got device isolation or domain names, whether you want static leases or anything else. You can even use the VPN built right in, to whether it's to a remote user or to another site, which is pretty cool. Next is security. So by default, when you set up your Dream Machine Pro, the internet threat management will actually be off. Device and traffic identification will be on. So traffic and device management, obviously that will tell you what's on the network and help identify them. And then you can add definitions. So group, say if it's part of this group or category, I want you to block it, things like that. So that uses deep packet inspection to do that. And it's on by default. Internet threat management is actually off by default. And the reason is it can affect your throughput, your maximum throughput. So they try to warn you here that, look, turning this on will affect your throughput. And the reason why is because it has to look at every single packet coming in and out. But the beauty of it is it's pretty configurable. So we can say, look, I want a balanced approach, or I want a maximum performance approach, or I want a maximum protection approach. And it will automatically select some defaults there. But if you wanted to configure it yourself, you could drop this down and start ticking stuff that you think is more relevant, and then hit apply. But keep in mind that stuff will chew up resources on your Dream Machine. Once you activate it, you'll then get the tab on the left here for threat management. Then we go to internet. So then we've got our WAN settings, and we've got 2 WAN ports on the device. One is an SFP port and one is a Ethernet port. So depending on how you want to run it, you can have both, or you can have just one. I've blacked out the IP address and the location, of course, but if we go to edit, you see we've got settings for DNS server, MAC addresses, IPv6. But then if you scroll down to ISP capabilities, this is where you can configure what speeds your ISP promised you. So if they're promising 400 megabits per second, you could put 400 megabits here for download, whatever it is for upload. And back on the network screen, if we go back to dashboard here, that's where this number's coming from. So those are the main things I would pump through real quick once you first set it up. Make sure that it's set up the way you like. Then if we go to system settings, you've got your country, your time formats, your UI. I prefer the dark theme, so that's one of the first things I turned on. Whether you want Wi-Fi Man turned on, alerts and maintenance. So if we go into those, you can see there's all sorts of maintenance here that will check for updates. So remember before in the settings for the actual Dream Machine, we said automatically update application. If you had that option turned off, in here under network application, we can say we don't want automatic upgrades. So then you can control the automatic updates on per application level, or overall just upgrade everything. So I'm happy with automatic firmware stuff, so I'm just going to leave it as is for me. You can also cache firmware, so if you don't want things to change, you want to keep a copy for yourself, you can do that. If we go to advanced features, one of the features that I found, and I'm not really sure how great it is, I spoke with the colleague and other routers can do something similar already, But if we look at Wi-Fi AI, as they like to call it, so apparently what this is meant to do is scan your Wi-Fi range on a schedule that you set, and it will find the channel that it's currently on and whether it's really busy or not. And if it's extremely busy, it'll change the channels to something less busy. And it'll keep doing that as you go, and hopefully it's meant to improve your Wi-Fi. Now looking at these numbers, I started on 72%. I've dropped to like the 50s and then I've gone back up again. So I have no idea whether it's really working or not. I already know that I need another access point. So the reason why these numbers are so low is actually because devices are dropping off on the other end of the house. But look, it's an extra tool up your arsenal. I probably worded that a little bit wrong, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Switch to the UniFi portal here. We've also got the protect area. I'll take you for a quick look. You've got your hard drive space. If we go down to the devices, any other devices we've got, our live view, so you can add cameras, any events, time lapse, you can set roles. So if you want certain people to be able to come in and check out the cameras, any activity, and then you've got the settings for it as well. All right, so pretty cool settings. I think time-based and how many days before purging and things like that. If you want to set up activity alerts, you know, this is one I'll do for the baby so I can see what's happening and get alerted to that as well. I don't have anything in the access or talk setup, but with the options there. So again, scalability. Later on, if I want to switch to VoIP phones, the options there. If I want to switch to some of their access product lineups, we've got that as well. So guys, I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a quick broad overview on what's going on over here at IBRACORP and why I would recommend this network. I think if you're looking to save money over the long term, I think if you want ease of use, want to be considered a prosumer. If you're looking at trying to unify, no pun intended, all your different products into one umbrella and something that you can manage a little easier, the UniFi lineup, I would definitely recommend the Dream Machine Pro. If you're not getting the Dream Machine Pro, you know, previously you had to buy a cloud key, you had to buy a security gateway, you had to buy, you know, a bunch of different things to achieve what this one box is doing for us. I highly recommend it. I think if you're ready to make a change, this is the time to do it. I'd like to thank you for watching our video today. 2,000 subscribers. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride. So thank you very much for everyone for your support. Every video you watch, you like, subscribing to our channel, and a big thank you to everyone who subscribes over on the website to help support us financially. I can't thank you enough, and I hope to keep giving more back to you. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you in the next IBRACORP video.